Good morning. We are going to finish up summarizing by talking about text structure, because that will tell us our final step. So we did our plot elements, or character elements, with somebody. So we talked about protagonist and antagonist. Wanted, we talked about characterization. So how do we know those characters once? How do we know what they need to do, what their goals are and their beliefs are? We have but with conflicts. Is it a man versus man nature, or man versus self type of conflict? Somebody wanted but so. So we're talking about the can you tell it's early morning? The natural progression that a story goes through. That is a narrative. It will go from an exposition where you're introducing that somebody, you're introducing that conflict, and you're introducing the setting, the characters, and the conflict. I might have just repeated myself. But you then have rising action where you are building suspense. You're taking all those small things, you're having small victories and small defeats against that conflict until you reach the climax, which is the point of no return. Something happens and we can't go back from it. Everything is affected now. Then you have the falling action, which are the consequences of that climax, until we get to the resolution, which is where we kind of tie things in a nice bow. We finally either defeat or succumb to our conflict, and we go from there. Or we finish from there, I should say. We now have then. Now, then in fiction is always going to be one type. But text structure includes all types of writing. So we'll talk about text structure first, and then we'll narrow it down to what that means for a narrative or a fictional work. So when you go into the index, you can either click to where it says, or you could be like me and scroll. It's going to be on page 56. Now I'm going to move mini me slightly to the side so you guys can still see. Okay, so we have 5 different text structures. I told you 5 seems to be the magical number. So our text structures are description, compare and contrast, chronological. Chronological is also called sequence. So you might see either, or I might say either. Problem solution, and cause and effect. So what you are doing in this slide is I have given you clues when looking for them, and I have given you the title of the structure. We are going to go through and give the definition and place the visual representation of how I would like you to be able to break things apart. So let's first do definition. So I'm going to zoom in. The author gives information about a problem and explains one or more solutions. Now, an example of this is if I tell you global warming exists, and I say one of the issues is non-renewable resources are being used continuously. Non-renewable means we can't get them back after they're used. That's a problem. I did not give you a solution though. So it would be, we need to use more recyclable materials and recycle those materials. We also need to try to lower our carbon footprint, which is how much carbon emissions we are giving out. So I'm giving you a problem, global warming, and solutions. So in case you didn't know, or in case it wasn't in the title, this is a problem and solution. I need to put it down so nobody. As I zoomed in. Now, if I zoom out, I want you to think real quick, which one of these shows a problem, and then at least one, maybe more solutions. Go ahead and pause the video. Try to figure it out. Did you do it yet? Or are you just going to wait for me to give you the answer? Okay. It's going to be this big guy where you have on top a problem, and then you have possible solutions underneath. You're trying to figure out a solution to our problem. So we'll zoom back in again. The author describes an event or several events and the events that follow because of it. So this is if I tell you, you spent all of Monday and Tuesday playing Among Us and not paying attention to Miss J's. So when there was a government quiz on Thursday, you didn't know what you were doing, so you failed or you got an IP. That's a series of events, you not doing your work, what it leads to, not a great grade. So this is called a sequence or a chronological. We'll learn chrono means time. So if it's what happens over a set amount of time. Maybe if it's sequence, the sequence of events that happen. It's kind of why I like saying sequence better. Okay, we'll zoom out. For sequence. I'm wrong. How many of you clocked me on that? I thought, teacher brain, that because it's a sequence of events, it would be chronological. But that's wrong. Because what it actually is cause and effect. The cause is you didn't study for the test and you didn't learn the information. The effect is that you got a bad grade. It's not the multiple events leading up to it. It's this happened, so this happened. I'm wrong. So go ahead and move that one to cause and effect. It's always good to check yourself because even 75-year-old Miss J's messes up. Now, cause and effect are going to be these green boxes because one light green effect leads to the dark green effect, which might lead to another effect. The more you know. Miss J's can be wrong. Okay. Author discusses the similarities and differences between people, things, concepts, and ideas. So this is where if I say, I would like you to look at the similarities and differences between Miss J's and Miss Rossi. You could say some similarities. You're both ladies. We're ladies, women. You can say differences. Miss J's teaches humanities. Miss Rossi teaches science. Similarities. We both work at Baldwin Road Junior High. Differences. I have short hair. She has long hair. Could be something like that. So what you're doing is you are comparing and contrasting two things. You are looking at the similarities and the differences. Now, for this visual, you guys use this probably a lot already, but it is a Venn diagram. We'll talk about it. There's something we'll use later on where you can compare more than two things. And it has 3 circles interconnected because you can compare and contrast 3 things. They'll still have things similar between them. Maybe not all of them, but between each other. And they'll have differences. Zooming in again, we have the reader provides, or the author, my bad. The author provides readers with events or a list of steps in a procedure. So that list, that can either be something simple like a recipe. That's a list of steps. Or it could be in 1945, Miss Jays was born. In 1970, Miss Jays was bitten and she became a vampire. In 1972, people tracked down the vampire Miss Jays and she had to go get help because she was injured and she became part robot in 1980. In 2000, she moved to Ohio. See how it's like a list of steps? You're getting a sequence of events or a sequence of steps, or you are doing chronological over time, what you're going to do, or chronological events, time-based events that you're going through. So this is chronological in case you weren't picking up what I was putting down. And that's going to be this lovely timeline. This is going to leave description. This is what any work of fiction is. It is going to be author provides several details of something to give the reader a mental image. This is all those descriptor words that we hear. So instead of saying, she ran, she sprinted down the hallway as the wind swept through her hair. The feet paddled on the ground as she took each step. Giving those descriptors make it so much more vivid in our head and we can kind of picture it, we can hear it. In some cases, especially if it's a really good bakery channel, Miss Jays can smell it if you're talking about cookies. So this is where in the beginning, we're going to have something we're describing, and those are all the words we could use to describe it. If you are confused, you can go ahead and rewatch the video on the bottom, the 5 types of text structure. But we're good for now. Go ahead and put the 5 text structures on your hand and go ahead and star description because this is the one we're going to do. When you're done, we're going to try a fun game, which kind of explains my crown and my spacesuit for a little sneak peek. But I'll see you in a little bit.